How you doing, guys? I'm Sean O'Donnell. I'm Head Technical Architect at Rapid Ratings. Rapid Ratings are a private financial ratings agency, but we've lots of work for people who are not specifically into finance or that layer of things. I'll talk a lot more as we go on. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Michelle. I'm a technical recruiter from Demonware. So Demonware are part of Activision Blizzard. We're a games as a service company, so we provide all of the online services for video games, such as Call of Duty, for example, is one of the main titles we work on.
Hi guys, my name is Sergio. I'm a data scientist / research engineer / engineer working for Zalando. We are the largest fashion e-commerce in Europe. Nice to meet you.
Cool. So, just the second question was, tell us, you've introduced where you're from, but tell us a bit more about your company, about the culture of your company. Tell us about, in terms of that breakdown earlier on of what you do in terms of functions like DevOps or data science and so on, or back end. And it's probably enough to start with there. So just if you tell us about your company, so you can start to go back in the other direction there,
So in Zalando, we actually have teams that mix data science and engineering together. So the idea is that the teams are responsible of developing the products. Also, we are in charge of all the life cycle of the products, from the technical design up to implementing, monitoring, testing, and 24/7. So we are responsible of all the life cycle of our products. We are very flexible in our culture. We really like people to learn new things. For example, in my case, my main reason for joining Zalando was learning Spark. During the last few months, I've been learning, for example, Flink for stream processing and Cassandra. And that's what we are actually looking for, people that is looking forward to learn new things, that wants to take a new challenge on, and they are not scared about challenges, they want to take them in, they want to learn new things, they want to develop cool products. And that's more or less our culture.
Okay, so at Demonware, I guess our motto is that we take our work seriously and ourselves not too much. We're 180 people across 3 locations, so we're in Dublin, Vancouver, and Shanghai. So basically we would work on product teams, so different products within the company. So for example, our matchmaking team for multiplayer, or we'd have our authentication team for microtransactions that happen in the game, and then we have a titles department that would focus on shipping our titles and work with various different teams internally, and also with various game studios. So we interact with the likes of Treyarch and Infinity Ward for Call of Duty. So they would be focusing on all of the different products that we work on and services that we offer for a solid game, an online game experience, no matter what different version of Call of Duty, for example, is being played. And they would be interacting with the various studios that are making the games from a very, very early stage. So we work predominantly with Python, Linux, MySQL. We have software devs and DevOps teams working side by side in an agile environment. And we would work a little bit as well with C++ and Erlang in our gateway, but our main technology stack would be Python.
Okay, culture is a different one to answer, because I'm sure we've all had the job where you got your 6-monthly brief on what the company culture is now and rolled your eyes to heaven. But I think we're completely a Python shop, and I think that kind of is a choice that reflects a lot of the culture. We've got as much process as necessary and no more. We'd be big adherents of agile process, and I think the agile principle of people before process is one we stick to an awful lot. We have several small, tightly knit teams who work across a range of things. A lot of Python, web engineering, web applications, web services. We have operations people who are currently helping us make a big move to Kubernetes. We have our UI and design interaction teams who are working more on front-end stuff. We are about to start putting together a data science team to start mining the data sets we have to build some new products. So that's something where, if you're interested in that, you can get in on the ground floor. I think one of the things of our culture I like the most is that we have a relatively flat structure and a relatively uncomplicated structure. An awful lot of the larger projects we've undertaken in the last few years have been the ideas of individual engineers who then get to pick that idea up, run with it, implement it, make it happen, and have a big impact on the business. So I think that concept of someone having a good idea, being able to run with it, and being able to have a very large and real impact on the business in a short space of time is probably my favourite aspect of the company culture.
Okay, so just before I actually set up the third question there, but just before I go into the third question there, but if anybody wants to sort of make any positive question there right now, like we can ask a question there right now, we'll let yourselves give you the opportunity to think of one, and I'll make another sort of pause just after this to open it to the floor, so to speak. So the next question was about the interview process. So first off, are you hiring actively, or is your company hopefully hiring in the next few years? I think you've sort of partially answered that already. But also tell us about the interview process and what sort of advice you would give to people who would sort of be interested in your particular field. Now again, you sort of partially answered that, some of you have sort of touched on that already, but we can just sort of go over that again in a bit more detail. So again, tell us about a job seeker hoping to join your company or who's interested in your field. I better stop yapping and let you answer the question actually.
Okay, to start with, we're very much actively hiring right now. We're looking for, if you know Pycon, we'll probably be interested in talking to you. We're looking for operations people as well. As I said, we're about to switch our entire stack to Kubernetes. Anyone who wants to work with it or has experience with it, we'd love to talk to you. As I said, we're looking at starting up some data science work, analysing the data sets we have. We probably have the largest database of private company financials in the world. And at the moment, we know there are a lot of products we can build around that by analysing sectors, trends, patterns, and we're doing none of it. So there's a lovely green field waiting for someone to dig into there. In terms of the interview process, it's not several long, full days of marathon interviews. Typically, you would interview with 3 people. Typically, it could be fit in a single day, scheduling for everybody worked out. More normally, it would be spread across a couple of relatively short interviews. The longest single interview might stretch to 2 or 3 hours. Generally speaking, you'd meet with me if you're a technical hire. You'd meet with the global head of technology, Dave Lawless, who's here in the audience, and probably with the project manager most relevant to whatever area you're thinking of coming into. And it really is more of a conversation. We don't go in for the sort of the silly brain puzzler type questions. We don't want to grill you on the small details of an API you may or may not have worked with. We want to get a sense of who you are. We want to get a sense of what projects you've worked on in the past. That's not to say there are no technical questions, but they're more in the style of an exploratory conversation. Faced with this problem, what would you do? And it's not a case of there's a right or a wrong answer. It's an opportunity to talk through technologies, walk through relevant stacks, that kind of thing. So it's a relatively informal process, but we would of course be tuning what we're hearing back from you in line of where you are in your career, what we want to match, and everything else. So it's not an ordeal, but we of course have to take it very seriously. It's not just a meeting, a cup of tea. Thanks.
Yes, so we at Demon we're actively hiring as well. We have various different levels of roles open at the moment. We have internships starting in January, and we open there for both developers and for ops. And then for more experienced hires, I guess, we're constantly looking for Python developers. Considering the services that we work on, it's very much so scalable back-end, I guess, people who want to work at scale, and it's all back-end development. We do, as I said, take on some C++ engineers. If someone is C++ background and has an interest in Python, that's definitely a good fit for us as well. But definitely someone who's passionate about Python or even passionate about gaming, working specifically on algorithmic development for matchmaking systems for multiplayer games to storage systems for storing all of the online data for online gamers. And then we're always looking for SRE systems engineers, Linux internals, design focused engineers that may have automation experience or with Puppet or knowledge about automation and want to get more so into Python. They're kind of all areas that we hire for. Again, the process definitely isn't a long, painful one. It's usually very much so softer kind of conversation with me initially to kind of get a grasp for what you've been working on previously, to kind of delve into some of your projects. If you're less experienced, maybe definitely the project element is something to focus on, or if you have like a GitHub account or something like that, that might be something that our technical people would look into. If you have games background, I come from product backgrounds around games, or even storage systems. We're looking for an engineering manager right now as well. So I kind of delve into some questions around that. Then there's always a technical conversation with one of our hiring managers, and then we'd have an on-site interview is kind of our process. And that can last, again, similarly up to around 2 to 3 hours. With a kind of problem-solving element in it as well. But it's very much the kind of wanting to get to know you, what you've been working on, what you're passionate about and stuff as well. So that's kind of what we cover.
So we are actually active career as well. We had, for example, 5 new people joining our team last week. The only caveat is that we have all our positions covered till January, but we are going to open new positions in January. So if you are looking for new opportunities, please contact us. We can start making the arrangements so you can come into an interview for January. So we are usually looking for data scientists, engineers, product owners, technical leads as well. Usually the background that we are looking for is someone with experience in Java, Python, or Scala, and actually if you have some knowledge regarding Kafka or Spark, that's actually a plus, any big data technology that you know. We are also trying to have a very streamlined interview process. We usually have an interview with our recruited lead. It's more like a cultural fit thing. And then we have an on-site with 3 interviews in which you could meet 3 people working on the team, and it's more like technical questions regarding the work that you've done, or some technical questions regarding a particular specific language.
Oh yeah. So this is, as I sort of said there a while ago, this is where I might open the floor to ask, and anyone who wants to ask sort of questions that follow on from that, if anybody has any, you know. Well, actually, yeah, go on, there's one there.
I just wanted to ask, what level of experience you're looking for as in the data science? Is it like just a beginner as you can, or 1 or 2 years experience?
I think we're probably going to be hiring more than one person. We would be looking for sort of a key hire to lead the data science effort, and obviously that person is not going to be a raw graduate, but there's probably more work than one person can handle. So we will be looking for some more junior hires to work alongside the direction of that person. So I would say pretty much, regardless of your level of experience, we'd like to talk to you. It's not an either or. We're probably going to have several people working on this by the end of next year.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else there? Because, okay. So actually, I'm going to sort of play a character here. I applied to each of your companies, and I just fell short somehow. I wasn't a complete disaster, but just what are these little things that sort of just make you miss the cut, so to speak? You know, what are these little things to watch out for? You know, sorry, and actually, what sort of you can also sort of put that in a positive side of things. What are these little extra things? Oh yeah, we mentioned the GitHub account there. Okay, so what are these sort of things that sort of help you in the interview process, and what would sort of hinder you? Like wearing a red tie to your interview or something like that, that proverbial one, like, you know, happened to me. It was my only clean tie. Never heard of this thing before anyway. It's the first time I wore a tie in ages. And I wore it anyway. So anyway, that's just like sort of the small things that sort of help you and the small things that hinder you. And seeing as Halloween is coming up, you know, you can throw in a horror story there if you want. You know, so it might be a bit of a tough one to answer, like, so we can go on to the David McWilliams stuff afterwards, but we'll just sort of keep it focused here.
It's a little bit difficult for me. I'm not a recruiter, so I don't really have any horror stories. I have heard some of them, like some people basically copying the code test before coming into an interview. Something that did not happen to me, so I cannot talk too much about it. Yeah, so for me, as an interviewer, when I have to do an interview with someone that wants to join the team, what I really look for, rather than just a very high technical skills in a particular language, in a particular technology, what I look for is really passion about what they are doing. They really want to be engaging during the interview. They really want to do what they are doing. If you don't like what you're doing, there is no point in coming to us just looking for a job on that, because basically you're going to drop the job in a few months if you don't like what you do. So that's what we try to check, that you really like what you're doing and you want to keep doing that in the future.
Yeah, for us, first of all, coming in, it's a casual work environment, very much so it's less ties and more hoodies. There's lots of Skylanders characters around the place, and a big Predator and Call of Duty stuff, so it's a very relaxed work environment. It's more like about results driven, so it's very relaxed, as I said, like it's very, people trust that people working there are doing what they need to do, so I think that's what we look for as well in people at interviews. So it's more so definitely honesty around your experience, what you do know and what you don't know and what you want to learn. So we want to have eager people that continually want to build on their experience, be exposed and learn new technologies, and that's something that I think comes from our leadership down. They're very, very passionate about what they do. So it's not just about, it doesn't necessarily have to be about games, but about tech. So I think just illustrating that you have an interest in learning, any personal projects that you've done, if you haven't got the actual experience, is definitely going to come across that as well.
I think the simplest thing you can do to make your interview go smoothly anywhere is do your homework on who you're interviewing with. Not necessarily because every company you interview with is going to think they're the greatest thing and you have to know all about them, but because it makes the conversations flow an awful lot easier. If you're not explaining the very fundamentals of what business you're in and what you do and why it matters, you're going to be able to get through more of the interview. You're going to have a much smoother process. You're not going to be stopping for 15-minute explanations of, what is a financial rating, for example. And that gives you more time to show off what you can do, your skill set, your background, your experience. On a more specific technical note, an area where I see interviews fall apart pretty regularly is people who know an awful lot about a particular type of system that we're interested in can tell you an awful lot about how it works, how to set it up, how to go out rolling out a project. And then you start asking them questions along the lines of, if this went wrong, what would you do? A big gap I see when I'm interviewing is a lack of troubleshooting skills. People will basically stab blindly in the dark for a solution. For me personally, when I'm hiring someone technical, I want to know they can cope when things go wrong. I want to see a very well thought out, reasoned process for getting to the root of a problem. And for me, if no matter how impressed I've been in the first half of an interview, if I get to the point where I'm asking to solve problems, and the answer is a simple I don't know, and a lack of willingness to even attempt anything, or when they do attempt, it's a very haphazard process, that's generally a no hire for me. So if working on troubleshooting skills, I think, is something every engineer should do anyway. It's very valuable, and it's something I specifically look for in interviews.
Okay, so I'm going to sort of set up two questions here again, but again, I'll just open the floor. I'll tell the interviewers, the panelists, my questions first. First off, I'm going to just sort of let you throw you a question about work-life balance, and then sort of about the challenges of hiring in Dublin. Okay, but in the meantime, like the David McWilliams stuff, the rent and all that, But then in the meantime, what I might do is open the floor to any questions again, just a bit more about the interview process. If anybody wants to make any observations. No? All right. No, okay. So essentially, what's life work balance in your company, and like you an 80-hour a week place or something like that, or core hours, remote working. Give us some sort of a sense of what's going on there.
Sure. We're definitely not an 80-hour a week place, and we don't want to be an 80-hour a week place, and we don't want you to work 80 hours a week. If I found somebody doing that, I would probably be sitting down to find out what the hell is going wrong. A lot of the guys we work with are, they're family people, ladies as well. People have kids, people have lives outside of work, and we do a lot to try and accommodate that. While we don't have anybody working fully remotely, it's very, very normal for people to say, Wednesday, I'm having a new fridge delivered, I'm going to work from home, and we have the infrastructure for that. You're not crippled at all because you've got your laptop at home rather than the office. Sometimes people work at home just because they want some peace and quiet to, write a presentation for Pycon or something. So we do take that very seriously. It's kind of a case of, if you're delivering for the company, you'll get a lot of flexibility in return. I don't think anybody in the company particularly cares exactly how religiously you clock to a particular schedule. If you're delivering, we're happy. And I think that's the only sensible way to run a business these days.
Yeah, we have, depends on the team, I guess. Commonly, I think most commonly in the office it's like 10 to 6, and that's then a 1 hour lunch break on that as well, so I think it's 35-hour week in your contract. But I think that people are flexible if people want. We do have a few people working remotely, but they're people who have worked with the company for a number of years and personal reasons may have relocated different places, and we're very flexible towards that. We don't have a policy in place, unfortunately, to have people work remotely from the beginning of their career, but flexibility is definitely there. I know people have agreements that have kids that might choose to work from home a few evenings or a particular day every week, for example, or personal choice, just or whatever their situation is, just they have to work from home for a set period of the week, and that's completely fine. We have different studios we interact with across different parts of the globe, so people might choose to come in late a particular day and stay later on that evening, just to allow for crossover times as well for that. So there's flexibility there. We're very much so, I guess, results driven, trust orientated, people kind of get their work done however way they feel best, and I guess have an agreement with their manager around that, so yeah.
As my colleagues were saying, we are pretty flexible as well. We don't really care if you arrive at 10 or 7 in the morning, as far as you get your job done, and it's a quality job basically. You can leave early one day if you have your fruits to deliver, or if you want to go in the middle of the day to the gym. We have plenty of colleagues that are just going to the gym around the corner at lunchtime or in the evening or whatever. We are just focused on your results. We don't care if you're just sitting in your computer 5 hours or 12. I mean, we don't want you obviously to stay for 12 hours every day. In addition, if you want to support the 24/7 team, that's completely up to you. You can sign up for that if you want to do it, and actually that's paid extra in addition to your regular wages. That's pretty good if you want to commit to that as well.
So again, just opening the floor there. Actually, just keep an eye on the time because I didn't bring my 20 minutes left. Okay, right, so it's actually here I was going to sort of set up a couple of bit more big questions, the big David McWilliams stuff actually. So just like it's about like sort of the challenges of sort of running a tech company in Dublin or recruiting for it, like as the costs are going up and can you get the talent, is the talent pool there? Really big questions. It might be a bit hard to answer, so if you want to go with a no comment, we'll let you off this time, like, you know, it's not, they've been prepping for it, like there. Sergio, you can start us off there.
It's really difficult for me to say this. I'm not a recruiter, but I can see this topic from the other side as an engineer or data scientist. Dublin has a great talent. There are plenty of very good professionals here, but it's really difficult to attract them to your company. We started like a couple of years ago. Our office here in Dublin opened like 2 years ago. And I was employee number 20, and there are like 100 of us right now. But that was actually a very difficult process, trying to find the right people and actually convincing them to join our team. It's not always easy, especially for us that we are not very well known here in Ireland because we don't sell our products here. So I think that the guys in Berlin are having, it's easier for them because Fernando is bigger there. But yeah, I think that the talent is here in Dublin, and I really think that it's pretty difficult to get it into your company. So it's a very hot topic for everyone.
Yeah, I think that we have a very multicultural environment, so we have relocated a lot of people to work with us. Certainly Demonware as a brand on its own probably isn't very well known, whereas we're probably more so associate ourselves, and definitely when we're reaching out to people we've mentioned the fact that we're part of Activision. So luckily as a recruiter, when I do reach out to people, I do get pretty good response rates. Like, I mean, what we're working on is pretty cool, so it's lucky that we kind of do get people back to us and quite interested. But certainly, as I said, we do kind of reach beyond the local market. We do relocate a lot of people, and we work with third-party vendors in relation to getting work permits and everything in order, and we get people advice around tax, etc. as well. So we have a lot of support that we offer people to get the people that we need, I guess, to work with us as well.
I think Dublin only ever seems at the moment to get more and more challenging to hire. We're both. It's a double-edged sword. You have a lot of very large, very well-known organisations with big operations in Dublin now, and obviously you're competing with them for each and every single hire. That has an upside. They're a magnet to bring a lot of very talented, very experienced people to Dublin, and hopefully steal away from them. So there's an upside and a downside to that. The housing crisis obviously isn't helping. People who I know who would have considered living and working in Dublin a few years ago look at what it's going to cost to rent and live here and aren't as interested anymore. That's very unfortunate, and I really hope that situation starts to finally improve sometime soon. I think at the end of the day, it's always hard to hire good people. Every city I've ever worked in, everybody who's hiring talks about how difficult it is to hire, and they have their own set of challenges. At the end of the day, you know, if there was no housing crisis and people were able to live here cheaply, we'd have a bigger pool and we would just be raising our standards, but we'd probably still make it as hard for ourselves as we have today. And if it was worse and there was a smaller pool, you know, we would have to, we would probably be looking at more remote work or something else we would adapt. I think the bottom line is, to a certain extent, hiring is the most important thing a company can do. The quality of the people you work alongside with is really going to have such a massive impact on your success that if you're not finding recruiting arduous and difficult, then you're doing something wrong.
Okay, again, open to the floor. Okay, go on.
So for those who are sort of like career changers, so they're coming from a different background, and they can prove their technical skills, what is the likelihood of them, getting into a position like the one you offer?
It is a disadvantage not to have a lot of experience. Always will be, but certainly our door is not closed. We don't even require that people we talk to have any Python background at all. We're perfectly willing to talk to developers with very different technical backgrounds. Generally speaking, somebody who's coming from a different background or someone who's coming from a completely different technical stack to what we're used to has a higher bar to jump on. We're looking to see a lot more enthusiasm. We're looking to see a lot of intelligence. We're looking to see someone who we think the cost of them ramping up to meet, to be effective in our organization is going to be paid back. So I would certainly say it doesn't close the door, but if you're jumping career like that, you really do your homework before you interview with an organization. Figure out what your selling points are. You want to be saying, for example, I have no idea, in our case, I don't know any Python, I don't know any Django, but look at this cool thing I've built in the past, and here's why I think that's relevant to you. Or look at this experience I have in the past, and this is how I think you can make use of that. Figure out what your selling point is, and that will probably carry you a long way. And certainly, we would like to talk to you. Absolutely, come talk to us later at the desk.
Just from my perspective, I guess I would review a lot of CVs a lot of the time. So I think that it's important that if you really want to transition, just like you were saying, into a new area, that your CV is the first thing that someone will see. So I think illustrating your passion for and also proof of what you have done to show your interest in transitioning. So whether that be personal projects, whether that be your link to your GitHub account, because that's the first thing that we would have to look at because we haven't got the experience to, I guess, go by before that. So definitely focus a lot on getting your CV to illustrate what you have done and the projects that you've worked on to show your interest in the transition, because it's very hard when you have got people with the experience going forward for a role and someone who just sends something with nothing but the experience they have that's not relevant to justify putting them forward to a next stage. So yeah, I think you definitely have, like, you have to show a little bit extra to get there, but it's not a no. So.
Yeah, I actually agree with my colleagues. For example, one of our best engineers, he started his career as a nurse, and at some point he decided to move into big data. He did his PhD in big data, and he is one of our best big data engineers, so that shouldn't be a problem at all.
So actually, just going to sort of, that's the sort of topic I'm interested in. So I'm just going to sort of follow up with sort of shorter questions. So something I'd be quite particularly interested in would be, I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet. Like, I'll break it up into two parts. Zalando is based in Berlin, and something that's also based in Berlin is the Data Science Retreat, which is something I know about. I know a few people who work there. So that's 12-week coding boot camps. And also, let's say MOOCs, the massively online courses. So just nothing too major, but just actually a good discussion about them from the point of view of a job, a prospective candidate, or is this worth their time doing, or would they be better off going to do a master's, a part-time master's, or something like that? What's the optimal return on investment there from the point of view of the recruiter? Or I mean, you might have to make a guess there, but like, you know.
So, I don't know, to be honest, I held a PhD, but I used to do a lot of learning online, and I think that the education that you can get in places like Coursera or EDX, that's great. You can get a lot of education from there, from big data, technologies such as Python or Scala, and that's a great source of knowledge. And if I could be, if I were a recruiter, actually, I would look for people that are just educating themselves online on this type of sources.
Mm. So I think they're the boot camps, like the more condensed coding things, or just without sort of.
I don't have much experience in there. I haven't attended any of them, so I cannot tell you.
All right. Okay. So something actually, just open it up. If anybody wants to ask you any questions, yeah, go on there, yeah.
Let's talk about age. I've been interviewing recently. I have around 13 years experience. It turns out many employers want people with 5 years, more or less, and then basically get a lot of reactions because they say they think I'm too expensive, I'm too comfortable where I am. So do you have any tips like for me? Because I think I'm not at all. I'm 27 and then. Second part.
Just talking from my experience, I come from Spain. I can tell you, when I moved to Ireland, there were many people removing years of their experience on their CVs because they had the same experience as you. Companies were thinking that they were too expensive or too innovative or too creative to hire them. So they were applying basically for jobs that they were overqualified to do. So what I would personally recommend to you is just prove to the guy that is interviewing you, just that you are really looking for the change, that you are really looking to take new challenges, and you are passionate about what you are doing.
Yeah, I certainly, I can't comment on what's out there on the broader market, but if I were you, I know myself, I wouldn't be applying to something that I would be over-experienced for where possible, because I would want to develop further. For us, we have huge challenges on hiring more senior people. In fact, it's harder to find people that may have, the number. It's not about the years, but the kind of exposure that we might need, or the similar problems being solved in their experience, that they can actually guide and mentor other engineers. For us, we actually have a lot of success in having interns in, or graduates, and bringing them back and kind of moving them up. And we find that to be really successful because they might stay longer actually in the company and develop further. Whereas we actually find it challenging to hire more senior people. So we would love to see more senior people coming through to actually mentor our engineers. And I think from the other angle, as I said, I just would find it, I know it's more challenging when you have a certain level of experience, because there is probably less quantity of roles out there, but I certainly wouldn't, let yourself apply for something less senior either, because I think it's important for you to challenge yourself and want to develop a little bit further. So maybe just hone in on the specific roles that do actually require the level of experience that you have, and try and develop yourself and challenge yourself that a little bit more, because those companies are actually finding those people really hard to find as well. So.
Speaking about rapid writing specifically, to start with, you wouldn't be our youngest developer, it would be hard. So no barrier for us specifically, although that's not to dismiss your concerns. I've talked to many developers who, as they get older, find that the range of positions that they can take and keep the kind of salary level they're used to gets tougher and tougher. What I would say is, as you get older and as you get more experienced, the kind of roles that you want demand that you demonstrate an awful lot more to a potential employer than a graduate hire is going to demonstrate. They're making a bigger financial investment in you. And to a certain extent, you have to become your own PR agency. It is worth building yourself something of a community profile. It's worth coming to events like these and networking. It's very worth speaking at events like these, speaking at user groups, putting together some presentations, getting your name known, so that when you turn up at the interview, you're not a guy with X numbers of years of experience. You're that guy I met at that event who seemed to know an awful lot about that. You can do an awful lot of your interview work for yourself before you ever set foot in the door of an organization. So that's good advice for anyone at any level in their career. But as you start to build 10, 15, 20 years of experience, the kind of salary you've built up to, if you want to move up, it's good to advertise yourself. It's good to have a presence in the area you're working in and to have a profile.
Can I just make, just on the back of that, that's a really good point, because just speaking from Demonware specifically, we may not necessarily advertise for roles. However, by getting our name out there, if someone knows X, Y, or Z about you, or we're quite good at spotting a gap that we may have in our company, and if we do manage to come across somebody, however way, at any period in time, we may be able to opportunistically hire someone as well if we see a gap that we need in the company. So I guess that is a good way to try and get your name out there, because there may be other companies as well like us that might not necessarily advertise or even be able to put a job description together to explain the need they have, and they may come across that need just like at a meetup or something like that. So.
That's great, actually. So I was just actually going to sort of follow on from that question. Actually, that was a good question. So actually, just to sort of like to sort of prompt the sort of non-technical skills in your work environment. Let's just say project management or organizational behaviour, and or those sort of things there, or even just knowing legal stuff. Is that the sort of? I think that's sometimes a very big skills gap in technical environments, or the environment I work in sometimes. Just do you have any comments about that? Like just project management, soft skills essentially. Don't want to sort of undersell them and call them soft skills, but like, you know, rather than just good technical skill set, you know, discuss the importance of these non-technical skills, so to speak.
Yeah, well, for us, we would have some company values that we would like around relationship building, your ability to learn, like your interest in learning and developing, mentoring others, learning from others, also relationships that you might build with various game studios, for example. Yes, obviously, if we have somebody that may be a lead for that specific team, they may need to have definitely some coaching or mentoring experience before. But in relation to knowledge in the business world around legal, I mean, that's training that we could provide to people if they moved into a management position in the future. I don't think we would need or test those specifically in an interview. It's more so the kind of, I guess, interest in sharing and gaining knowledge, and also kind of having an interest in communicating, whether they'd be interested in presenting in the future or whatever way they want to develop their skills to combine that with their technical abilities. We would support that, and definitely would want them to communicate one way or another with each other. We wouldn't necessarily need to test for any specific business acumens in a lot of the technical roles that we hire for.
So we don't really have a legal department as well here in Dublin. So regarding the project management, I really think that those skills are really relevant for the teams in order to organize their work and being successful at delivering the job that they have to do. So we don't have actually devoted roles to project manager or something like that.
that's the I'm getting ready. We do a quick runner, or I'll let you finish and whether we'll
So what we try to do is we let the teams actually take ownership of that kind of job, so people actually upskill themselves on those type of jobs. We have people that maybe are more interested into agile, so we actually we train them to be an agile coach for the teams or for different teams. Or if you are more into some kind of product specialist and more trying to manage the relationship among other teams or with your delivery leads, so we actually train people for that as well, but actually those functions are done by the teams as well.
Communication skills, both spoken and written. You can be the smartest, brightest person in the room. If you can't tell the room what that great idea is, if you can't get them to buy into that idea, carry it along, what good is it? You can't, I was talking earlier about individual developers coming up with good ideas, selling them to the team in the company and then executing them. If you can't communicate, you can't do that. You're, a really bright developer who can't work with other people is no good to me. I would rather take someone far more mediocre who can really bring a team together and really move a project along. So I would say, work on both your written and your spoken communication skills. That's the biggest soft skill to me by a huge mark.
Okay. So, is that time for lunch?
1 minute.
I know, we'll go for lunch, yeah. All right, with that, thank the speakers. Give them a round of applause, please. And get to the top of the queue. On you go.